Hey everyone, in a previous video we went through the process of creating Azure AI vision models to recognize objects, multiple objects. They were eggs in that case. If you remember, we created models, then trained them in the cloud, and then tried them with some training images and saw that it became very good at recognizing eggs, and we could upload pictures of cartons of eggs or individual eggs and it recognized them just fine. What we're going to do in this video is actually build upon that and extract that model that we built in Azure and download that as an Apple CoreML vision model and incorporate that into an iOS app. So this would be moving the AI model that we developed in the cloud and moving it out to an edge device where it didn't even need to be connected to the cloud and could just run on that local application. So let's get into it. Here in the Azure Portal, I can see where I created the original AI vision resources. So I had an egg vision training resource and I had a prediction resource. And then from there, I went to the custom AI vision portal to actually create this solution. And if I go back there, I can see this is the egg recognizer project that I created. And I had added a bunch of training images to the project. And if I look at one of those, I can see that I tagged those images to help teach the model where eggs are located in each of the images. Some of these have cartons of eggs, some of them have individual eggs. There are no untagged, and we previously did train the model, and it has really good precision. The recall maybe needs a little bit of work, but for the purposes of our demo, it's good enough for sure. And if you remember from the previous video, we could test that by uploading an image that the model had never seen before and see how it did on predicting where the eggs were. So here I have 1, 2, 3 eggs that are predicted. So the process that we're going to do in this video is to move this model into an edge device. So it's going to be an iOS and an iPhone. So we're going to download the model that we're using with this quick test, exporting it to the Apple CoreML format, and then pull that into an iOS app and run it locally. So we'll be using the compute on the iPhone rather than the compute within the Azure cloud. So the first step in this process is we actually need to export the model. So there's a button at the top of the editing portal here that says export. And before I click that, let me just point out one detail. Is the only models that can be exported are the ones that are marked with compact. So if we had created a general model or products on shelves model, we can't export that. We can only export the compact. So I've chosen the general compact, which is pretty much the simplest one that we could have to export. So let's go back to the performance tab. I'll click export, and I have a lot of choices here. So CoreML is Apple's technology for prediction models. TensorFlow is Google's, so this is what we would use on Android. Docker file could be used if we wanted to export this and run it into a Docker container on premises rather than sending images to the cloud. So there are several options here. We're going to choose the CoreML for iOS, and then we'll download the exported model, and that'll come, if you notice up here at the right, that's coming into my downloads folder. So if I click here to actually look at my downloads folder, I can see I have downloaded a uuid.coreml. So that's the format, is CoreML, and it's a zip file. So I'm going to double click into that so I can actually see what files did I get. So this is the meat of the model here. So the model as exported is only 44 megabytes. So that easily fits on an iPhone. And then there's some metadata that comes along with it. So this one is this labels text actually is the description. So that's the tag. And there could be multiple lines. So if we had tagged our images with a lot of different tags, we would see many lines of tags here. But this model, as you remember, only identifies eggs. There's only one tag, and this is what that tag is. That helps the application display metadata correctly. There's an export manifest, and this manifest has various information about the model that CoreML is going to use. And then there's a third file that's interesting, is this properties file. So the properties file has various parameters that get fed into the model. Okay, so that's the model. So that's exported. So we don't need that anymore. And what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to build an application from scratch in this video. I'm going to use Microsoft's sample that they created quite some time ago, about 4 years ago right now. The one that I am going to use is this one. So it's an object detector sample using the Swift language. So what I'm going to do next is just grab this code and download it locally. Okay, I'm on my desktop, there's nothing else here, and I'm going to go ahead and clone that from GitHub. And then if I go into that folder, here, let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it better. And I'm going to go into the CVS object detector sample Swift. Let me just make this clear. So here I can see I have an Xcode project. And then within here would be some source code. I see this pod file, which tells me that they used CocoaPods to pull in some dependencies. So I'm going to go ahead and install those dependencies. And it looks like what they pulled in was this Microsoft Custom Vision Mobile. So Microsoft has created some object code that actually pulls in their model and metadata, and then kind of shortcuts some of the CoreML processes that we usually have to do. So that created a workspace, and I'm going to want to pull that up in Xcode. So I'll say open the workspace. Okay, that will open my Xcode project. And then if I kind of dig into the source code a little bit here, if you're familiar with iOS development, I mean, essentially there's a app delegate launches the app. A view controller is the controller for the main view that the user sees on screen. And then the third thing that's interesting I wanted to point out is this sample was made to discriminate between pictures of cats and dogs, but it uses object detection. So we can actually just kind of put our model into this app and try it out. So if I look at what I downloaded from Azure and compare that to what's in this project already, I can see I've got a model file here. So that I'll just overwrite their model with my model. And here's their manifest. I'll overwrite that. There's that labels file. I'll put that in. And our model has, or our solution, what we downloaded has this metadata properties file. They didn't have that. Maybe they didn't use that 4 years ago. I'm not sure, but we'll be copying that file in as well. So there's different ways to do this, but what I'm going to do is just open this folder in Finder, and I'm going to overwrite the files that I have. So I have model, and I have the manifest, I have the labels, those 3 files. So I'm really just going to pull these in here and overwrite them. So replace all. And then there's that 4th file, which is brand new. I want to make sure to add that to the Xcode project. So I'm going to pull that in through the IDE like this. All right. And that will bring that in. Perfect. Okay, so I've got my model pulled in. I mentioned the app delegate just launches the app. View controller is what the user is going to see. What this app does is most of the code that's actually in this file is dealing with operating the camera and drawing lines and things like that. It's not that interesting in terms of our demo, but the part I do want to point out is as the view loads, so when the view first appears on screen for the user, there's some code here that's going to run, and the interesting parts are right in this section here. So the object detector, so this is a module that that Microsoft provides, and basically what it's going to do is pull in the manifest. It's going to grab the manifest, and the manifest is going to have all the information about the files that make up this solution. So there's a model, there's the labels, there's the metadata properties, and this manifest is going to get loaded. It's going to describe to the object detector configuration like what makes up this model solution. And the config build is actually going to pull that stuff in. It's going to do some generation of code and run it, and then at the end it creates an object detector. So this configures the model, and this creates a model in memory that can be used. And then this object detector, if we kind of look at where it gets used, this is saying as frames are coming in from the video image, it's going to run that through the object detector. So if you kind of, without getting into a lot of detail, create an image based on a frame, and then give that image to the object detector and tell the model to run. So this is basically running a prediction. So it's running a prediction against the model using each frame that it receives from the camera. So rather than uploading an image, seeing the output, and then uploading another image and seeing the output, this is going to be like multiple times per second that this model is going to run, which is really kind of the value of putting this on the edge in a way, is to run it in real time. Okay, so that's the explanation. So let's actually see if this builds. If we did everything right, then it will build the first time. Oops, I missed a step. So since I'm going to run this on a real device, I actually need to go in and add some code signing. So I will do this. I won't necessarily show this to you, but basically with iOS, to run on a real device, I need to associate this with a developer account. So I'll put mine in here. And that should do it. Now let's see if it builds. Okay, so now we successfully built, and I'm gonna run this, but before I run it, I actually want to put I'm gonna run this on a physical device that I want you to see, so I'm gonna share that screen onto my Mac so that as I run it, whatever I'm doing, you'll be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, so here's the phone we're gonna run this on. There's the home screen. I'm gonna just put that, I'll put that here in the middle and make it big so it's a little more clear. Oops, I need to run this, get play to run. And then that will install the app on the phone and run the app. So we'll give that a minute to run. There we go. And then I have some eggs next to me on the desk, so we'll see how well it does in detecting them. Okay, so can it use the camera? Yes, you can use the camera. Okay, so now that the application is launched, let's go ahead and use it. So here I have a carton of eggs. So we'll get the camera so that it can see the eggs and see how it does. And it's doing a pretty good job. It's finding all the eggs in the carton. And what's really to notice here is that rather than uploading an image to the cloud and getting a response back, what's happening is multiple times per second, it's grabbing a frame out of the video and it's running the prediction of the model and seeing what it's finding in real time. So as I move the camera around, it's just redoing the prediction. So this is, it's probably 5-6 times a second that it's running through the prediction of the model rather than uploading an image and waiting for it to come back. So that's pretty much what I wanted to go through. So we basically what we did is we found well, essentially we went to the prediction resource. We went here, performance tab. We exported that to CoreML, which is Apple's format, downloaded that and put it into an application. So the model we downloaded, we then put into the Xcode project right there, and that will get bundled with the app, shipped out, and then we let users run that application and detect eggs on their iPhone in real time. So that's it. I hope you found that interesting, and I will see you next time.